Hello, movie patient, and welcome to Film Therapy. I am Brienne, also known as Miss Movies, also known as your film therapist. I am not a real therapist, but I play one on the internet just for this show. And today, as with any film therapy session, I have a guest patient, and that guest patient is Andrew Guy. Hello, Andrew. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, doctor. Thank you for
How's it
having me.
going?
It's going great. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm going to have you bring this up
Up a little
really
close.
close
Okay,
because
cool. You can do that.
in this house, I have very little money. So we have to keep the microphones close to our mouths.
But she has enough money for a house, which is pretty
That's
impressive.
true. That's true. So here's how the show works for those of you joining us for the first time.
Mhm.
Basically, I ask the patient, the guest
I love
patient.
that you. I'd never listened to your intro. I don't think. I think I
Okay.
just jumped into the episode. So yeah, that's excellent.
So the guest patient, I'm going to ask three questions, same three questions every time. What is a film that inspires you? What is a film or a scene from a film that triggers a memory for you? Perhaps it's painful, maybe it's happy. And what is a film that helps you through difficult times? So I started this show because I do suffer from depression, and I find that movies help me through that. And so I wanted to do something that kind of combined the two, the two things I love.
Depression
Um,
and movies.
but I do want to say if you are having a problem right now that you need help with, please call your doctor, call 911, get the help that you need it immediately. I'm not a therapist. Andrew's not a
I'm
therapist,
not.
so we can't technically help you. So,
But
yeah.
I can talk to you about my problems
Yes,
and
you
things
can
like that,
definitely
which
talk
is
to me
what
about your
therapy is a lot
problems.
of the time.
Before we get started with our questions, I want to know a little bit more about Andrew. So, hey, who
Okay.
are you? What's
Hi.
happening?
I'm
What's your
Andrew
story?
Guy. We became friends through. I came on your show, Six Degrees of Film, and you came on mine, Action Movie Anatomy, on the Popcorn
Yes.
Talk Network. So I've been doing that show for, I think we're at like 92 or
Wow,
93 episodes now.
congratulations. What are you going to
Yeah.
do for 100?
You're gonna have to wait and find out. We have some
Okay.
special stuff planned. We really do. That we have to get back to our rankings, like because we used
Okay,
to rank all
right.
the movies
Mhm.
and all the actors. You had my co-host Ben on, I think, last week.
Right.
So that is what I do. I'm also an actor, which is, that there's that whole struggle. Actor,
Mhm.
improviser. I do improv over at the West Side Comedy Theater in Santa Monica.
Nice. I've seen some photos on
Yeah.
your Facebook or
Yes.
Twitter. Nah, mainly Facebook.
Mainly
You're
Facebook.
a
Yeah.
Facebooker.
I have such a hard time like promoting myself. I don't know why.
Okay.
I know I need to get better about it.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, that's, yeah, that's our job. But yeah, that's really about it. I actually just recently booked a movie, so I'm very
Oh,
excited. I'm about to take a
congratulations.
month off of everything to go film that. So, and that's actually going to tie into one of my answers.
Now, when you go to do that, does
Hmm.
someone take your spot on Action Movie Anatomy while you're gone? Or is it on hiatus for a month?
It's tough.
Or
So
is Miss Movies stepping in? Like, what's happening?
maybe we should have you take over.
Like,
Maybe that's what
who
we should
knows?
do. I think we might try to pre-tape an episode when we might
Okay.
take a week off. But if you guys want to hop on, if the Six
Oh,
Degrees girls want to go back
hey.
on, you should talk
We'd
to
love
Ben.
it. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Anytime. Anytime. Any place. Are
But
we doing Cliffhanger 2?
yes, and
I
that means you have
mean,
to bring us back on to talk more Tom
that's
Cruise
right.
and
It's time for you guys to return anyways. So we
yeah.
need to work that into the schedule.
That had to have been like a year ago
It's
now.
pretty much a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been friends for a year. Look
Oh
at
my
that.
goodness. What? Yay.
Yay.
Yay. But how did you come to LA?
Um, so I have been here for 6.5 years. I
Mhm.
moved here right when I was about to graduate college, which
Okay.
is funny because
Where did you go
this
to
is therapy.
college?
So let's talk about it. So I went to college at Oregon State University my freshman
Okay.
year, and then after that, I went to Eugene and went to University of Oregon and Lane Community College.
Okay.
And
So you've been a beaver and a duck.
I've been a beaver and a duck. I'm a diehard duck. Let's go. Final four. We can do this. Um, but I read this quote by Brad Pitt, and it went straight to my head. And it was maybe not the best idea, but basically what it was is he was kind of going through the same thing that I was at the end of college, which was
Mhm.
where you were looking around and all your friends were getting married or getting engaged or had like this job that they really wanted, this career, this lifestyle. And I was kind of sitting there like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Like, what am I don't want to work a 9 to 5 job. Like, I don't
Right.
know what I want. And I'd went from pre-med to sociology to psychology to theater. And I basically read this quote that said, like, in so many words, it was like, if the movies aren't going to come to me, I need to go to them. And it's about following your dream and about not I get not the easy way, because having kids and getting married and having a 9 to 5 job is not easy. It's very
No.
difficult. It's
Yes.
very, very hard. But for me, it just wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't what would fulfill me. So I was like, you know what? I need to just go. So I decided to
Mm.
not graduate. I was very close, because I knew that if I got a degree, when things got tough, I would fall back on it. As
Hmm.
crazy as that is.
Interesting.
And 40-year-old me might look back at 29-year-old, 28-year-old, or 22-year-old and be like,
Yeah.
you dumbass.
You're like Matt Damon.
I'm
He's
just like Matt
one
Damon.
course away from graduating Harvard.
Yes.
Harvard.
Harvard. Just doing a janitor doing math equations. But yeah, so then I just decided to move here. So I've been here for 6.5 years, and I love it.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So is your family in Oregon then?
So my mom and my youngest older sister, because I have three
Okay.
older sisters, Leslie, they live in Oregon. And then my two oldest sisters, Sandra and Julie, live in Utah with all their kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
So everyone's a little spread out.
Yeah, a little bit, which is nice, because I get to go to Oregon once a year, and then I go to Utah once a year, and then they
Mhm.
like to come to California because it's California.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to come to California? And
It's-
all that tourism is going up in Los Angeles thanks to La La Land.
Yay! Oh, it is.
Which means more tourism is going to come my way because I'm near one of the sites.
Oh, you are,
I'm
absolutely.
near the Lighthouse Cafe.
Hey, we're gonna have to go
So,
after this.
Right
Reenact-
away.
Reenact the scene.
That's right.
Did you like
We'll
La
go
La
down the
Land?
pier and we'll play with someone's hat.
Yes, right, of course.
Okay, La La Land is I love to hate it, but I do love it.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
absolutely.
There are things
Yes,
that
yes.
I find wrong with it that bother me, but I really do love it.
Of
And
course.
like I did cry at the end the second time I saw it. So
I still need to watch it again, but I cried like
Mhm.
6 times in that
Whoa.
movie. I'm like I found that as I'm getting older, I'm much more emotional than I used to be.
that's what happened to me too. Like once I reached 25, I was like, why am I crying at Sarah Seidel leaving CSI? Like, what is this happening right now?
There was this video the other day, and it was like on Facebook, and it was like, click on this if you want to cry, like some heart touching
yeah.
thing. And I was
Okay.
like, okay. And I like clicked on it, and like 30 seconds into
You're
it,
like,
nothing
I'll
had
do
even
this
happened yet.
emotional porn.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
exactly. Nothing had even happened yet. And I was like tearing up because I was like so ready for the anticipation. I was like, I'm supposed to be sad right now. And anyway, I did end up crying at whatever it was, but it
Mhm.
was just, I don't know, I've just become very sensitive and emotional. So La La Land, I cried a
Yeah.
lot in. And it also hit me like
Well, because
right in the
it's your
feels.
story, right?
Yeah.
You see yourself in the movie, and I think that's what a lot of people in Los Angeles can see themselves in some part of that film because of the things that we do in terms of creating content and
Totally. And trying to find
and
love
hustling
and
all the
relationships and
time.
hustling and trying to find your car and your car getting
Mhm.
towed. And
Yeah.
it's,
Oh yeah.
there's literally everything in that movie, even like putting the keys up to your head to like make the radio
Oh, yeah.
waves.
Mhm.
I do that.
I learned that when I worked at Blockbuster.
Really?
Yeah.
I worked at Blockbuster too.
What do you know?
Yeah,
So many
look at
people have worked at
this.
Blockbuster. Hector Navarro, Quentin Tarantino. You know, the greats.
All the greats. See, this is a good sign. This is a good sign today.
All right, let's get into our first question,
Okay.
which is what is a film that inspires you? And it's La La Land.
And it's La La Land. It actually was La La Land originally, but then I
Mhm.
was like, you know what? That movie just came out, and it would be like I haven't been inspired by a film until 6 months ago. Is what
Sure.
that made me feel
Well,
like.
the thing is, this question, first of all, it's not like a one and done situation on this show. It's not like
For
you come
sure.
on and then that's it. You only
Yes,
have one
those are your
film that
3
inspires
answers.
you. That's it. I mean, there's so many different films that can inspire you, and you can be like, at this time in my life, this movie inspired me to
Right.
do this.
Yeah. So,
there's that.
like I said, originally I wanted to talk about La La Land, but the 2 movies that I think inspire me the most throughout my entire life are, excuse me, Requiem for a Dream and Boogie Nights.
Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, real hardcore there.
Real hardcore. Both of them. Both of them are very hardcore. There's a scene in
Wow.
both those movies that are very hard to watch.
Mhm.
But there's a reason why they inspire me. And obviously, like I said, I want to be an actor. That's like what I want to do.
Mhm.
That's what I've been training to do my whole life. And there's something about these films where everyone is at the top of their game. Directors,
Mhm.
writers, cinematographers, every single actor. I've never seen Wahlberg, Marlon Wayans, even Ellen Bernstein, who's incredible, pull off
Was
performances
she
like they do.
nominated?
She was
for
nominated
this?
and lost to
Okay.
she lost to Julia Roberts for Aaron Brockovich, which I
Okay,
still
well.
think is one of the biggest travesties to ever happen.
Really?
Not because Aaron
No.
Brockovich isn't good, but because Ellen Bernstein's performance is the greatest. Like the greatest.
She's pretty incredible.
So the reason that those movies inspired me was because I'd watched the drug deal gone bad scene from Boogie Nights before I ever
Mhm.
watched the movie with
Okay.
Alfred Molina. And it was like the music and the acting and the tension. And it was one of those things where you looked at it, and movies can still be great. You can still make
Mhm.
something that's never been made before. You can still tell a story that's never been told. And it was movies like that, despite how depressing they were. Um, but that's why I like them, is because life is like that. You have these
Right.
highs, and those movies, they both have these. Those movies do the best job of making you be like, oh yeah, heroin's cooler. Oh yeah, the porn industry, blah blah blah. Like this seems so fun, but then it's like, yeah, this is real life, and it catches up
Mhm.
to you. And so, to be able to tell a movie that makes you feel so high at one point and so low at another, and then it kind of all ties together at the end, whether it's happy or sad, those movies inspired me to do greater, to do more, to try
Mm.
harder in my career, because I think that movies like that don't get made that often.
They don't get made that often. For sure. Requiem, I hope to never watch
I
again.
hear that from
Um,
almost everybody.
and so do you rewatch that a lot?
I don't watch it a lot because it is
Okay.
very difficult to watch.
It
And
is.
when I do watch it again, some like usually the last like 20 to 30 minutes, that's when you kind of slink
You're like,
away.
here's where it
Here it
goes
goes.
real south,
Um
real quick.
but I do. I'm if you talk to, I mean, Ben is the person that knows me the best when it comes to movies, but like I watch depressing movies a lot. I
Okay.
love depressing movies. Like The Road is one of my
Hmm.
favorite movies. And so I don't know what it is about watching a depressing movie that makes me feel good.
Because you're like, my life isn't this
My
bad.
life is okay.
I'm doing all right.
And then I
Look at
also
these people.
yeah, right. That's my own therapy, is like, look at these people's lives, it's not
Hmm.
mine.
Hmm.
But it's also it was also being able to, oh man, I totally lost my thought right there. Maybe I'll come back to it.
You know what happens.
It does.
Marlon Wayans, man, I this Requiem is like when I realized he's not just like a jokester,
Right? Everyone in
which
that
is great.
movie is incredible. I mean, obviously Connolly and Leto are great actors, and so is Bernstein. But yeah, Marlon Wayans in that movie, he's a phenomenal actor. Thomas Jane in Boogie Nights, I still think Thomas Jane's underrated, but that performance
Right.
is incredible. Every single performance in that movie is just Scotty J, Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H. Macy. Every single person in that whole story. That's what's so brilliant about Paul Thomas Anderson, is he gets these ensemble casts, and he makes every single
Hmm.
character just as important as the last one.
Right.
And again, that's it was just the way to do that, the way of telling these stories. And also that he wrote that movie when he was, I think, 18 or 19
What? Get
is
out of
is
here.
crazy to me.
Get out of here. This movie, I the first time I saw it was when you and Ben came on 6 Degrees because you wanted to talk about it,
Yeah.
and I was like, all right,
Oh, I
I guess
remember
I'll
it.
see it.
Yes.
I'm glad I saw it. It made me very uncomfortable, like I
Yeah.
will say, probably because I'm a prude. But I mean, I'll come out and say that as I get older, less of a prude.
Right.
So that's good.
There are so many people I would never want to watch that movie with,
Yeah, your
ever. My
mom,
mom, anyone in my family.
all of your sisters.
Yeah, like it's even when you watch it with your friends, you're kind of like, yeah, that's that type. It's that
Yeah.
type of movie.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
like, I gotta watch this alone or
which
with
then
someone
is
that appreciates it just like I do.
I
So
had
then we don't have this awkwardness, you know?
yeah, I had a roommate in college. His name was Brian, and he was the one guy that's like, you want to watch something really depressing? Like, let's do it. It's awesome.
What's the most depressing film you think you've ever seen? If you can think of something off the top of your head,
Most
I have one that
depressing.
I'll share while you think about it.
Okay.
I saw this documentary. I talk about this all the time. I saw this documentary called Dear Zachary. I cried probably 5, 6 times, and like during the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and then probably 4 or 5 times later thinking about the movie because it
Because
was
it was
so
that.
impactful.
What was it called?
Dear Zachary.
And you said it's a documentary.
Yes, a letter to
Hmm.
a son from his father or something. I forget what the like subtext of it is.
I don't know what the most depressing movie I've ever seen. Oh, hey, Star Drew. It's one of my fans from
And
the
hey,
AMA. He's a
hey,
great guy.
he is great. He's been around my channel for a long time.
I mean, most
He's one
people
of
have probably
my
been around you
OGs.
longer than, because we're still so new.
You guys are at like 100 episodes. I mean, I've been Miss Movies for 10 years, so it's a little
Exactly.
different,
It's
but
very different.
but which is weird. Actually, I've
Most
been Miss Movies on in shows for 10 years, but I've been Miss Movies since 2004. That's
Wow.
a long time.
That's a long
That's
time.
a long time.
She's been around.
Who
I'm
knew?
like a baby. I'm fresh. I've been it's been almost 2 years now that I've been doing this,
Nice.
but I love it.
It's great.
It's fun. I don't know. I can't think of the most
It's
depressing
okay.
movie ever. I mean, there's movies with depressing moments, but I don't know.
If you're in the waiting room right now, you can let us know what the most depressing movie
Yeah.
you've seen, and maybe we'll we'll hone in on those
Talk
and
about
see.
that. I mean, The Road
Mhm,
is pretty rough.
mhm.
Have you seen that?
Didn't see it. No,
Oh yeah. I mean, it's that you got to watch that. If
it's
you
a father-son tale.
It's a father-son tale and like Charlize is in it for just a little bit. It's gut-wrenching.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mayank says, "Boy in the striped pajamas."
I know
Really
that movie.
depressed me.
Yeah. I haven't watched it, but I know the cover from when I worked at Blockbuster.
Okay. I'm thinking of the book Stripes, A Bad Case of Stripes. Did you ever see this book? This is a children's book. She is rainbow colored and she has stripes. That's what
Everyone
I'm
has
thinking.
kids, yes. I did think about Gladiator, but not when he dies. It's just too perfect. It's too perfect when he dies for it to be sad.
Mm,
It's
true.
I have a very
Spoiler alert
spoiler alert in
for
case you
that old movie.
came out 17 years ago.
We'll keep looking at your suggestions for most depressing film, but let's move on to our second question, which is what is a film or a scene from a film that triggers a memory for you? Perhaps it's painful, maybe it's happy.
Hmm. Yeah, this is where it gets real, people.
Okay.
So it's another newer movie, which is
Mhm.
interesting to me because I've been obsessed with movies my whole life. But it's from Creed,
Okay.
and there's a scene in it, and it's at the very end when he's fighting the champ, and he's getting his ass kicked. Right back to just
Hmm.
the same of where his dad was at.
Right.
Like about like Rocky thinks he's gonna die. He's got to throw the towel. He's like, you can't throw it. He's like, I got to prove it. He's like, prove what? He goes, that I'm not a mistake. And that line resonates with me on so many levels because I mean the guy wants to be the best boxer in the world. How crazy is that? I want to be an actor. How ridiculous is that? I was raised by a single mother. I had a dad that didn't want me, not because he didn't love me or my mom. It's that his family was incredibly religious, radical religious. I'm half Korean and half Indian, and he is my half Indian side. I'm not going to say what religion it is because it doesn't matter. Um, his family threatened to kill me and my mom and him if they got married and had me. And
Whoa.
so, yeah, right? Film therapy.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the youngest. My three sisters
Okay.
have a different father. They
Okay.
all have the same dad. And then I came along about Leslie is 10 years older than me, and Sandra and Julie are 16 and 17 years, respectively. Um, and that line to me, when I heard it, I just started crying immediately. And then I went back and watched it again like a couple days later because it was on TV again, and I just recorded that like 2 minutes of the
Hmm.
movie, and I would watch it because it was so touching to me. Because so again, my dad didn't want me to be born because he knew that he wasn't going to be there. Essentially, after he'd found out about
Mm-hmm.
this, it wasn't anything else. He's not a bad guy by any means, but it's also that thing to where, yeah, I almost didn't happen.
Right.
And my mom fought for that to happen. She fought for me to be there and my sisters, and she's a single mom. She's worked 30 years being a single, I mean, fuck, my sister's 45 years being a single parent, you know,
Wow.
and when she raised me on her own, it was the poorest she'd ever been in her entire life when I was born. She had all three of my sisters and by herself. She didn't have money for gas. She didn't have a
Mhm.
career at the time. And to look at where I'm at now and like what I want to accomplish, that line to me was like, yeah, I need to prove that I'm worth it. I need to prove that I'm not a mistake. I need to prove that everything that she did up to this point in my life was not for nothing,
Right.
you know? And so that line still, I mean, even when I say it, you know, that I'm not a mistake, it's like it gets to me every single time.
So your father, you feel like the pressure of family is the reason that he's not in your life.
Yeah, definitely. It's always been that way.
Hmm.
And I think the family that was influencing him changed from his parents to his wife to his now he has two sons that are probably, let's see, if I'm 20, I turned 29 on Wednesday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. They've got to be probably like 25 and 23, maybe something
Okay.
like that. Just like a few years younger. Because what happened was his family told him that he needed to come home to India immediately. They
Okay.
had an arranged marriage for him immediately. Then they all of them moved to San Jose and just kind of started a family there. So he's very close.
Okay.
And him and I haven't seen him since I was 7. I haven't talked to him on the phone I think since I was like 16.
Okay.
And I think we emailed when I was 22, right when I moved here, to kind of like tell him what was going on, because my
Mm-hmm.
mom she'd send him newspaper clippings and let him know about like what I was doing in college and like all the plays I was in, because that's what I did. And so when I moved here, I kind of told him like, yeah, this is here, I'm in LA, this is where I live, this is what I'm doing. And we sent a couple back and forth, and finally I sent one that was like, my roommate offered to drive up to San Jose, love to meet
Mm-hmm.
you and your wife and my brothers.
Right.
Never responded.
Mm.
6.5 years ago. Um, Again, you can't hold it against him, and you can't hold a grudge because it doesn't do anything. It's like eating poison and waiting for him to die or something, you
Right.
know? So, yeah, that's why getting this movie is such a big thing for me. It's like the first step in like doing these shows and like getting invited on this, and like the success of AMA and being on the Schmodown. It's like, yeah, I'm doing it,
Mm-hmm.
trying. It's
Right.
really, really, really hard. Uh, but I've got to do it. I got to prove it.
How old were you when you first learned about your dad, like in this story? And
Like
then
the
how
situation
old
that it is.
were you when you first understood?
Hmm. That's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that in my whole life, and I've told this story a lot. I don't know when I came to realize the like the actuality of it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I think it was just one of those things where I didn't have a dad my whole life, and my mom kind of told me that he's a good guy and he wishes he could be here, but he couldn't. You know, and there was I do remember a moment when I finally was able to forgive him or let it go, was when I was 16. I did this thing called the Landmark Forum. I don't know if you ever heard of it,
Haven't heard of it.
but it's kind of like a life coaching thing. A lot of people think it's kind of culty. I get how you could get that vibe from it, but I honestly recommend everyone would do it once, because it's just one of those things that kind of gets you to confront your fears and confront things that hold you back and basically deal with your baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it forces you to do that. And so the the final day of this 3-day course, which is like a weekend long, is you're supposed to call someone and not confront them, but have a conversation with them.
Okay.
That was when I was 16. That was the last time I talked to my dad. And that was the first time that I ever told him that I loved him and that I understood what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and that I forgave him. It wasn't his fault, and all that. And I was 16 at the time, so I was like riding this high of what I'd learned that weekend and like being free and letting go of your baggage. It probably took me maybe another 5 years to really, really honestly be like, okay, I get it, dude. Life's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Life's really hard, and you had a kid with someone that you probably shouldn't have had a kid with, you know? And so I think it was probably in my early 20s. That's a lie. It must have been after that email. Must have been after that email where I finally got it. So,
Yeah.
so probably like 5 years ago that I finally was able to just, cool. It's okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is heavy. Um, and it says a lot about your mom as well and how
Yeah.
amazing she must be, because it's she could have definitely told you something, a different story, and
Yeah.
like created a different person, a different father figure in your mind for you. But she created one that like it's not his fault that it's is this way.
Yeah. I mean, she basically always told me that if your dad really wanted to, he could have done it differently.
Sure.
And his family probably wouldn't have killed all of us.
Right.
But he was afraid. And
Right.
I think that's a lesson that she always was trying to pound in my head, was that like your dad doesn't live with the woman he loves and doesn't live with the son that he wants because he was too scared.
Mm-hmm.
And like my mom just ingraining that in my brain is that you can't let fear lead your life. Like my mom is the coolest chick you'll ever meet.
She sounds like it.
She is amazing. And she's actually coming down this week for my birthday too.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
I can't imagine her transformation too in terms of like when you were born and to now. Like, what does that look like? I mean, you know what that looks like,
It's
but
unbelievable. So my mom probably will never watch this, but she wouldn't be happy that I was telling her about the. She's a very, very strong businesswoman. She's a very
mhm,
proud Korean woman. When I was born, my mom, like I said, was so depressed, heartbroken, and penniless, literally penniless.
mhm.
She was just trying to find someone to take care of her kids so she could kill herself.
Oh man.
Legitimately. That was 29 years ago. My mom now is a very, very successful businesswoman. She's highly respected in the Korean community and the real estate community in Oregon. And she's just happy. More than anything, is that she's
Mhm.
just happy. And all of us, our whole family, there's nothing, we all love each other. We all get along great. We're always so happy to see each other. We all miss each other. And I think as a parent, I mean, I don't know, I'm not one, you are. Speaking from that point, when she talks about her life, she doesn't ever talk about all that stuff. She
Right.
only talks about how amazing our family is. And we always go, well, it's because of you. And she's like, no, no, no. But it's like, yeah, it's because of you, mom. So I think now seeing just just where she is now, it's just kind of it's amazing. And that's another thing is that like I will never give up because my life will never be that hard. I'm never gonna have 4 kids and be single. That's just not what I'm gonna do.
Right.
You know? I not that she made mistakes or anything, but she's like she said, she's like, I should not have been in that position. And she
Mhm.
never gave up and she still came out on top. So like if my life is when my life feels tough, I'm always like, this is nothing. You
Right.
know? Yeah. And even
There's always someone else
there's
that
always
has it harder than you.
yeah.
That's all. I always love that when people say you can't complain, and I'm like, no one can complain because there's always
There's
someone
always someone who's got it
with it
worse.
worse than you. Always,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
Yeah. It really is. But it's also those are the people and those stories that kind of put life in perspective,
Hmm.
make it more tolerable, I guess. Or just make you sack up, man,
Right.
woman up, whatever it is.
I'm so pleased that like just her story going from such hardship and now being where she is.
She's
Like,
badass.
I
She
love it.
totally is. Yeah. I've never been more proud to like know someone in my life than my mom.
Oh, oh, that's so sweet. All right, let's get into our final question,
Okay.
which is what is a film that helps you through difficult times?
Oh man. So I don't know.
And why is it the happening? Because it's so hilarious.
So his mom, thanks. My mom is amazing. She'd be very happy to hear that. So I went through a really, really, really bad breakup 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
We broke up while we were on vacation in Oregon visiting
Oh.
my mom at a wedding.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the last 3 weddings that I've taken a significant other to, we've broken up at them. So
Really?
I don't take
That's
people to weddings
interesting.
anymore.
Wait, how long had you been together with the person that you broke up with?
So my
Two and a
ex,
half
two and a
years
half
ago?
years. We're just gonna call her Hannah because if you know me, you know that's my ex, and also it's been so long that I'm just gonna refer to her as her for the next 10 minutes.
Okay.
So Hannah and I had been dating. We'd been best friends for years, like legitimately
Hmm.
best friends for years, even while I had a different relationship. And we'd probably been dating for just about 2 years at that point, living together for about a year. And people just even if you're meant to be friends, maybe you're not meant to be together. And we'd been friends for so long, we got along so well that we thought we'd give it a shot. It was great for a really long time, and then we just got stagnant,
Yeah.
completely stagnant. I wasn't doing anything with my career um, at all. I was literally just working like in a restaurant, and then she did like bikini bodybuilding, so she was like obsessed with like food and eating and working out and all that.
Oh.
Um, anyway, so yeah, we broke up, and we got back from vacation. So we were going on vacation. It was kind of before we had left. It had been kind of like this isn't really working, is it? And I was like, oh my god, it's not. When anyone says
Right.
this isn't really working, you know it's not. You're not tricking anybody. It's not like they're like,
Right.
oh my God, you're right. It's not.
What do you mean?
Yeah. It's
What?
like, we just been unhappy for months. I thought it was something else. Um, so when she said it, you're like, holy crap. Yeah. So I guess the trip was already planned. So it was kind of like, maybe we can save our relationship,
Sure.
which just, that doesn't work, by the way. At least for me, it didn't. So yeah, about halfway through the trip, we were like, yeah, this is.
Yeah, I'm gonna fly home early.
So she was already flying home early.
Oh, okay.
She was staying for 5 days, and I
Hmm.
was staying for like 10 because
Okay.
I was going to hang out with
Yeah.
my family afterwards. So yeah, those first 5 days, it was kind of just like, yeah, this is for sure not going to work. And she went home, and we kind of texted back and forth. And when I went back home, that was when it was like, yeah. So we were living in her house, her family's house where her mom grew up. And it was like, okay, so coming back from vacation, we just gone to Hawaii and Oregon. So I had no money.
Mm.
Um, and now I had to move out of my house, and I had nowhere to go. And so Ben, who you had on the
Oh
show last
yes.
week, let me stay on his couch for about 2 months. I think it was on there for almost 2 months. And my life was very degenerate during these 2 months. Like, I would just drink every day. That's all I would do, is I would just drink whiskey or scotch every day, like almost a half bottle to a bottle
Whoa.
every single day. And I was driving, and I was taking pills, and I was just a mess. I would go to work and get blackout drunk and work the whole time. I was fine. I don't know how I work when I'm like that, but I worked at a bar, so I could just drink for free for 5 hours. And my my manager, who was a GM at the time, was a very good friend of mine, was like, you get a week, man. You get a week of this. I
Hmm.
was like, thank you. Actually, it was more like, thank you. Um, I don't know why, but for some reason, it was the first time I'd ever watched the movie Warrior.
Yes, Ben talked about Warrior as well.
Yes. And Anthony Tambakis wrote that movie. He's a good friend of mine. So is Gavin O'Connor, who directed it. And at the time, I didn't know any of them. But this movie, there's just something about it that gave me hope. I don't know what. I really can't tell you. And like, even going back and watching that movie, there's so many parts about it that I think are so perfect. And the final moment with the song playing from the National, and like the brother tapping the other brother out and saying I love you, and the look from his dad. There's just so many moments in this movie that just like uplift me, that just make me
Hmm.
feel happy, whether it's Joel Edgerton and his wife talking, or the two brothers, whatever it is. I don't know why, but I watched that movie every single day for 2 months. Every single night. I would turn it on,
Wow.
and it would be what I would fall asleep to.
Hmm.
And as a kid, it was the Jetsons. like
You
I
gotta love the
Yeah,
Jetsons.
as a kid, like,
Did you ever watch the Jetsons Meet the Flintstones? Because I liked that
I don't
movie.
know if I did. I just love the original Jetsons. Anytime I
Okay.
was like in a bad mood as a kid, I would turn
Mhm.
on the Jetsons.
It was on for like a long time
Yeah.
too.
Oh, really long time.
Like I want to say at least over 10 years, maybe closer to 20.
I
I
would
don't know.
I would think so.
Can't
And
remember.
then yeah, so as I got older, it just became Warrior. I really can't tell you why it is. I just
Hmm.
think it's perfect. It's like top 5 favorite movies for me.
Wow.
And it always just makes me. It might be the wife. She's the greatest wife in a movie ever. She's so
Yeah, she
supportive. She
is.
loves him so much, but she totally calls him out on his crap. It's amazing. She's a great mother. Um,
Who played that?
I always forget her name. It's Michelle.
Monahan?
No,
Michelle?
is it
Not
Michelle? I can't remember her
Rodriguez.
name. No, it's not Rod. What is her name?
If you know and you're in the waiting room, let us
Yeah,
know.
please do. When I see the name, it's gonna make me. It's gonna go crazy. But yeah, so that was it, and then I honestly just kept watching it for like months. I
Hmm.
watched that movie every day because it was kind of like going from the very beginning and feeling what that was like 3 months later, and like
Hmm.
watching it and like not being blackout drunk when I went to sleep and not staying on someone's couch. Um, but yeah, so like I finally, Ben was like, you need to get off my couch, and not that you can't stay here. He's like,
Yeah.
you need to get off and just do something. So that's when I started doing improv.
Hmm.
And then improv, I hadn't done that since middle school. In high school, that led to hosting, which led to Action Movie Anatomy, which led to me having more confidence, which led to me acting again.
Right.
Which, so I think honestly, Warrior 2 is like a movie that I'm like, and for Anthony's in his 40s. and he's been writing for Jennifer Morrison. Thank you so much. Uh, he's been writing for his whole life, of course, and he had like a different career that he had before, and he had been trying for so long, for so hard to make something come together, and he finally had a movie come together in his 40s. You
Hmm.
know, like his first screenplay ever.
Yeah, it goes back to that whole thing about Brad Pitt and like
That's right. Never
that
give up.
quote, like if movies, they're not going to come to me. And that's something that like I thought of recently too, not specifically Brad Pitt's quote, but like I would see people that am colleagues with
Mhm.
and that I enjoy and that are doing things way more than I am, and doing great stuff. And I'd see like someone doing this photo shoot for like some company or whatever. And I was like, I want to do that. Like,
Right.
how do I get to do that? And then eventually I was just like, no one's going to ask me to do these things. So
No.
I'm just going to have to do them on my own. And that's why I've done things like those movie recreation photo shoot things, which I just did another one.
What'd you do?
I did Sandlot and Pretty Woman and Basic Instinct. So
Oh.
those are all like being edited now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's exactly true. Is like with the way that our industry is changing, like you just have to create. You just have to create.
Right.
It's like this show in 6 Degrees and like Ben and I creating Action Movie Natty is like, yeah, no one is just gonna come and hand you an opportunity.
Right.
And you saw that.
Yeah.
And it was really hard and it's taken years to get, but no, there's people watching us talk about my depressing life and people watch your show every week and mine. And it's yeah, it's cool. So that's another thing was like with Warriors, like thinking about his journey and my journey. Yep, there it was. I felt it slipping. Think about his journey and my journey and like what it was like
Mhm.
coming out of that. Like that was the probably the darkest period of my whole life because I was positive we were going to get married. I'd never
Mhm.
been more in
Wow.
love with someone in my life at the time. And yeah, yeah, going through and watching that and thinking about it, and I still go and I watch it now, and it's like it's got every time I watch it, it's got like this place in my heart of like remember like what that was like.
Mhm. And now
Um,
you're not there
and
anymore.
now I'm not there anymore, and there's a
So
happy
now
ending
it's
to the
even
movie.
better when you watch it.
It's so much better when I
'Cause you're
watch
like,
it
I
now.
remember that time. That time was bad, and now times are good.
Yeah, I didn't even like. I mean, like I loved watching it then, but I would just watch it and cry. It
Right?
was like I wasn't even enjoying myself, but it was. I needed it. I needed to feel the feels.
Mm-hmm.
The Notebook also makes me feel the feels on
Feels
so
the
many
feels.
levels.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, the Notebook.
I love that movie. Favorite romance movie of all time
Aw.
for me. Yeah.
There was this time I was on Schmoes Know and they did this game where it's like you hear a quote from a movie,
Okay.
like or you hear a part of a movie and like you have to guess what movie it is.
Do they do the
And it was not even like 2 words. Maybe it was 2 words. It was you could hear Ryan Gosling going, "You're bored.
You're
You're bored."
bored!
And then immediately Josh McCouga like pounced on it. I was like, that was a little too
That was
fast,
a little
Josh. Like just a little bit. Yes, it's called the game.
the
So
game.
Andrew.
You're bored. Yeah, it's I would have been the same. And also if I was on there and Makuga beat me, I would have been like furious that I missed a Notebook question.
Mm-hmm.
I
You're
love that
bored.
movie. You're bored. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. That's a movie that inspired me too. And back to La La Land and like relationships and all that. It's
Mhm.
like it's so hard to find love in LA while you're working at your career.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, lucky you. Well, it's tough, okay?
I bet it is. Like,
Between internet dating and app dating and just humans and
and
how
being
weird
an
we are now,
artist,
being an
having
artist,
a relationship is hard.
my schedule,
Hmm.
I don't have time for anything.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. You had time to come on here.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I didn't get too real or anything, did I?
You
Was that
got
good?
it was
The
great.
good
What are you
level of
talking
real?
about? You got very real.
Yeah, we have to. This is film therapy.
It is.
I would have felt
Don't
like
play
such
it safe.
a loser if I came on here and was like played it all cool and
Like this
coy.
film makes me happy.
Yeah,
Great.
like no,
Great.
depressing. The Road, Boogie Nights, Requiem. Yeah,
Those are depressing films.
but yeah, thank you so much for having me on. We're gonna have to bring you back on our show soon.
Yes, absolutely. I'll be taking your co-hosting chair for
Yeah,
about a month. No.
and then maybe we'll see you in the ring
Ooh, that would be
at the
great.
Schmodown.
That would be great.
That would be cool.
Not the ring with Samara, but
Mhm.
the ring of the Schmodown.
Yes.
It's kind of a semicircle.
It is. It's more of a yeah. It's
It's
not
like
a
a
ring.
campfire.
Who's this up
That
here?
would be great because you guys have a good entrance. We definitely have a good entrance. Let's say hello to some of our
Look at
friends
your
in the waiting
fans.
room. May
They're
Ank, I've seen you. Rovun Derb. I don't know how to say that.
and
Randall
Randall
Sands, we always see
Sands,
you.
Star
Thanks for being
Drew.
around. Elise McKenna. I love Elise McKenna's name because I love the movie Somewhere in Time. Have you ever seen Somewhere in Time? It's with Christopher Reeve. It's in the 80s.
Oh, I,
Jane Seymour plays Elise McKenna,
I do know.
who's the main character.
I am just. I mean, thank you guys so much for having me on and for being so
And
kind
Clint,
and Clint.
Clint's awesome. He does like clips and like artwork, maybe. I don't
Mhm.
know. He does cool stuff.
I'm gonna have to check you out. I'll find you on. I'll find you guys
Mm-hmm.
or on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
You guys can find me too at Andrew Guy on Twitter.
Yep.
I'm not the best at it, but I'm getting better. I promise.
Pierre Kelly, versus me versus Clark Wolf in a sci-fi answers count anywhere match. I don't know what that means, but
Sounds
my
interesting.
sci-fi is a little hazy because I like I would say I like little kid sci-fi movies.
Yeah, I'm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I like well, Back to the Future might be a little kid sci-fi, I would say, but
I'm
like
so not into like adult sci-fi. I'm much more into
mm,
fantasy.
mm,
Yeah,
yeah, which are different, which bothers me
they're
when they're
always
linked together.
always they're always
It
linked
does
together.
bother
It's
me.
not okay. Although Looper's like one of the coolest movies I've seen in a while.
That's pretty good.
I love that movie.
Pretty good. Where can everyone find you?
Oh, you guys can find me at Andrew Guy on Twitter and Instagram, and you can also find me on the Popcorn Talk Network Wednesdays for Action Movie Anatomy at 12:30 Pacific, and Fridays I do a show called The Unproduced Table Reads, also on the Popcorn Talk Network. It's where we take the hottest unproduced scripts in Hollywood of pilots and features, and we do table
Ooh,
reads, and we do a Q&A with the writer afterwards.
nice.
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
like that. The Rain '09, your presence is not unappreciated. It is being appreciated right now.
Lorraine, you are
We're having a
so
party
appreciated.
for
You're the
you.
We were saving you for last only.
Yes. The best is for last.
And Pierre Kelly.
Um, you guys can find me all day, every day on Twitter at Miss Movies. I have a schmodown coming up against Perry.
Yes.
What else? If you're in LA, WonderCon on Sunday, I'm at the schmodown panel.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah,
That's
come be on
cool.
that. It's my first panel. I'm so
That's
excited.
awesome.
And then what else I got coming up? I don't know. That's it.
Yeah. And if you guys want to talk about the story at all, or if you have any questions for me about anything I
Mhm.
talked about today, like I said, you can tweet at me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it.
All right. Excellent. I'm going to do that.
All right.
Thank you all for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.